So when we're going, if there are additional questions people come up with that they want to hand in, how many people here have been to a League of Women Voters candidate forum?
Oh God.
It's very hard to go to them. I'm surprised this many people, because as we know, they almost never happen, so they're very hard to go to. But you know, you have the questions up front, then you have people if you have questions. So if you have questions, maybe Jude keep an eye out, pass them down the row, and then Jude can run them up here, or run them up to these people if some hot topic comes up where you want to ask an additional question there. And I just find that it really helps to make for good education as the candidates who they are when you follow a process like that where people write questions down so that they have to think about them, and the questions become questions and not speeches. Okay, so with that, anybody have any they have not handed in? I see Mr. Ray. I see Mr. Ray writing furiously, so I know that there's something. That's a beautiful picture you drew.
That's the cornhole.
That's a cornhole. It's the cornhole form.
I don't love the cornhole form.
Yes. If you're watching our candidate forum and you would like to play cornhole, we have a tournament on the 24th. Okay. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to do the judges first. And Kevin Miles is going to go first, and I've actually asked Jason Nagle to step out of the room while Kevin Miles goes, and I'll explain that once he's out of the room. We just don't want to no. We're going to use the same questions for judges. We're going to use the same questions for both judges. They're two independent races, so they're not running against each other. But one of the things, in terms of educating, apparently he's very upset about it. If we're going to educate people, one of the things that we miss out on a lot, I think, in Claremont County is getting to know the candidates from a policy perspective and what their real views are. When we have people that are unopposed, we don't know what their real views are because they never really get asked many questions. So we'll hear what Kevin Miles says, and we'll hear what Jason Nagle says to the same questions. All right. And this is the efficient screening committee to make sure the questions are organized, not censored. All right, come on up here. And to start out with, so he's both the first, he's a judge, he's not opposed, and he gets 3 minutes to talk at the front end, and then we'll do questions.
Can I take my mask off?
You can.
Okay, very good. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for inviting me here tonight. My name is Judge Kevin Miles. I'm one of your 3 elected judges in municipal court. I've been a judge for about 8 years. I was first, I sought the Republican endorsement in 2013 when I first ran, and in 2015 when I ran again. I was blessed to receive the Republican endorsement on both of those occasions. As a judge for 8 years, I hope I'm doing a good job. I think I am. I'm a conservative judge. I'm a law and order judge. I treat people with respect in court, but I treat them fairly. I believe that a judge's job is not to make the law, but to interpret it as strictly as you can. My job is to safeguard the Constitution, and I take that very seriously. As far as me personally, I am a Union Township resident. My wife and my 2 children live here. I used to be on this committee, so I know the decisions that you have to make as to candidates, and I'm here tonight. I'll answer any questions that you have, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It wasn't 3 minutes, but
very good. All right.
Yeah.
So Nathan's going to hand them to me in the order that they're going to be asked. Okay. All right. All of our municipal court judges have come from the prosecutor's office. What do you see as the pros and cons of that?
Well, as someone who came from the prosecutor's office, I was there for about 13 years before coming onto the bench. I was the chief assistant prosecutor. I ran the criminal division before coming to be a judge. What I would indicate as a certain positive is that you take the cases as you get them. As an attorney, private attorney, you can pick your clients. As a prosecutor, you can't. You get the victim as you get them. You get the case as you get it. It teaches you, I think it's a good backing. I think it served me well on the bench. As being a prosecutor, I understand that there's a very high standard of proof, and I see that. I know that when I see it, and certainly I apply that now equally from the bench. The other thing I would indicate is I don't really see any negatives to that. I think it's because one of the things people don't know about prosecutors, I spent most of my time as a prosecutor in the supervisory role telling police officers, no, you can't do that. You cannot charge that. We're not going to put that in the grand jury. So I think from a prosecutor's perspective, I think it's a good backing to be a judge because you're going to be in a position to tell people no. Certainly officers if they don't have the evidence required.
Okay. You did great. We're going to try to limit you to 1 minute per question.
Got it.
Okay. So now this says, and I'm going to add just an editorial to this question, is that, so just in case people don't know, municipal court is misdemeanors. You can correct me when I'm wrong, you know, so certain types of crimes are in municipal courts, certain are in common pleas. But
Yes.
here's the question. How can we speed cases up? Some cases take years sometimes. This problem is in many courtrooms. How can your court lead the way?
Well, I think our court does lead the way. I can tell you that in my courtroom, and I can candidly speak for the other two judges, we don't have any cases that take that long. I have one case that is beyond Supreme Court guidelines, and that's because the attorney died while the case was pending. All three judges, myself included, are very mindful of the superintendent's rules. We're mindful that justice needs to be quick, needs to be certain. Victims need closures. Defendants need resolution to these cases. So certainly in my courtroom, it's efficient, but it's fair and due process occurs.
Okay. How long, I'm just going to add, how long is a typical case in municipal?
Are you talking criminal? Are you talking civil? A criminal case?
Help us out.
I'd say
I don't know. So
6
like
months. Six
okay.
months typically. Anything past 6 months, I'm going to be personally bird dogging that and want to know why.
Okay, and that's criminal or civil?
Criminal or civil. Civil is a little bit more leeway.
Okay.
But criminal, yeah, 6 months.
Okay, and then just so people know, because I don't know this, common pleas, is that a noticeably different?
It's completely different, yeah. The speedy trial rules are different in common pleas. We deal with misdemeanors, which are charges such as assault, DUI, domestic violence, charges like that. They're misdemeanors, they're punishable up to 180 days in jail, as opposed to common pleas, felonies, you'd be punishable by a prison term. Much more serious charges in common pleas.
Okay, next question. How does jail capacity impact your sentencing decisions? Should it be expanded?
Do I only get a minute on this? I can tell you that it is something that I have a good relationship with the past sheriff. I have I think a good relationship with the current sheriff. It's something that on every case is a consideration. Every day I get a list of who's in the jail, the numbers. My courtroom, number one, as a judge, I have to protect the public. I have to punish offenders who commit criminal acts. However, I don't do that in a vacuum. I have to be wary of the limited space, and I make those decisions. A lot of times I can do community service, house arrest, other things that can punish. To answer your question, it is a huge factor that I use in every decision that I make.
Okay, just to add to that, do you feel that the last part was, should it be expanded?
Should the jail be expanded?
Yeah, the jail capacity.
Well, I tell you what, they always say if the jail, if you build it, they'll fill it. I guess that's maybe a question not posed for me, but maybe for other elected officials. But there are people now that should be in jail that aren't in jail because the capacity is there. I have people that are multiple theft offenders who years ago I put in jail. Now I don't. I have to make room. I have a list. I can currently tell you I have 32 people in jail, and they're all in on multiple OVI offenses or offenses of violence. I don't think I have anyone currently in there on a theft-related offense or property crime. That's not to devalue those, but I have to make those decisions based on protecting the public. So unfortunately, those offenses, you get community service, you get some other alternative. That's just the reality of the jail population that we have and the lack of space.
Okay. Next question. At least 4 people have filed private citizen affidavits with the court. How do you think they should be handled?
Well, I have to be careful as a judge. I can't give a legal opinion on how cases are handled. I think if I answer that, I might get in trouble by giving you my legal opinion on how that should be brought. Should it be brought to the clerk? Should it be brought to the prosecutor? Should it be brought to the judge? That certainly could be in front of me, and ethically, I probably should abstain from answering the question directly. What I would indicate is any case that comes in front of me, probable cause affidavit or whatever it would be, I look at, number one, is there a conflict that exists, and if so, I have to avoid any appearance of impropriety. Even though I could be fair and impartial, I know I can be fair and impartial, it's the appearance, because as a judge, you represent the system, you represent judges and what people think of the system. So probable cause affidavit, like anything else, it's going to be treated the way it should. It's going to be treated, if it's appropriate, It'll be in front of me. If it's not, it won't be. But I think to answer that question, whoever posed it, I think would require me to give my legal opinion on what the process is, which I can't do. Ethically, I can't do.
Okay. Next question. Explain jury nullification. This is a multi-part question. I can read it back to you if you need it as we go.
Got it.
So, if I can read back part 7.
Sure.
No,
Yeah.
it's not that. It's like a couple things. Explain jury nullification. Do you support it? Do you support judicial superiority by judges overruling the Ohio Revised Code? That means judicial review. Reconcile both answers. 1 minute, go.
1 minute, go. Okay, I will tell you, number one, I think jury nullification is improper. I don't make the law. The law is what it is. What jury nullification is the O.J. Simpson case, for example. That's probably the most famous example of jury nullification. When I see the jury, I go through a jury and I tell the veneer, I say, listen, here's the law. If I tell you what the law is, even though you don't agree with it, maybe you think pot should be legal or whatever, you have to accept the law. So they have promised under oath to apply that law. So it would be improper for them to not apply the law, even though there's a lot of laws I disagree with, but I don't make them. To coincide that with the first question, you're talking about judicial activism. What I indicated, number one, is that's not what a judge's job is. I don't make the law. You elect folks that do that for you. My job is to interpret it as narrowly as I can in the constraints that have been given. I'm not here to make law. If I do that, I take away your voice at the ballot box by doing that.
Okay. And this is the last written down question. How do you see the court progressing in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I hope to be part of it. I can tell you over the 8 years that I've been there, I've made a lot of innovations, I think. Getting some new eyes, a little different perspective. We've changed the way we collect fines and costs. I won't bore you with that, but it's saved, we have collected about 3 times the amount of money that we collected, millions of dollars that weren't available before. The way they did it before was really inefficient. I have increased the docket to where we do it, where it's more responsive to police, more responsive to law enforcement. I know you want your police out here in Union Township or Pierce Township or Miami Township keeping you safe. You don't want them sitting and waiting in my courtroom. So those things are things that I have done. There are additional things. We have additional things we're working with the sheriff to try to expedite things when folks come in on things that are serious crimes that they're not going to get an OR bond or release bond. We will get those cases moved up quick. And we're working on that, and we've done that. So that, hopefully, in my next term, I'm going to focus on physical improvements to the building as far as security. I can't go into details, but there's a lot of security upgrades that need to occur. There's a case management system that needs to be implemented by whoever the next clerk is, and that's huge for us. And we're Stone Age as far as paper. We've got to get to paperless.
Okay. All right. So those were all the written questions.
I wanted to follow up on the
Neil,
people,
yes.
the theft people.
Yeah.
That you can't put in jail.
Well, you can put them in jail.
Right, but because of the jail, you
sure.
right now. Okay. What is an average jail term for a theft case?
Well, I can tell you, it used to be, because the attorneys know this, they practice in front of me, if you have a theft and you have one within the last 5 years, you come in front of me on a new theft, you're probably getting anywhere from 5 to 10 days in jail.
What about the recurring ones that you've seen multiple times?
It all depends. Now, there are some, I don't want to tell you that it's off the table. It is not. If you commit enough theft offenses to where, like if I have you on probation now and you pick up a new theft offense, I'm going to put you in jail. I'm gonna make room, and the sheriff understands that. They'll make room for those folks. But as a rule, property crimes are not going to take precedent over physical crimes and people that put the public at physical risk. So it's not a perfect scenario, but the court has to work with the sheriff. I have to consider those things. If not, I'm not a partner in the justice system, and I could do it, because I could do that, close my eyes and do that, but that's not going to do anybody any good. It's just going to jam up the jail.
Okay, any other questions that were not already asked? Somebody wants to put forward. All right, so you get your
I'll be here later.
15-minute close.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Usually they say I talk fast. I was really trying to talk fast to get under that minute, so just to slow it down a little bit. I've been a judge 8 years. I really do enjoy being a judge. It's rewarding. It's not all doom and gloom. I do see people, I won't go into details, but I'll see people out and about, and they'll come up to me and they'll say, you locked me up. I have no idea who you are, but you locked me up, but you saved my life. Okay, but you saved my life. You made me realize that, my kids are important or whatever, and I gotta stop doing drugs. When I deal with people in court, I tell them, It's consequences. You know, this isn't, you know, rocket science. It's consequences to your actions. You commit an offense against somebody in the public. The fact that you have a kid that relies on you, the fact that you have a job that you'll lose because I have to lock you up, those are all things you should have considered before you committed a criminal act. Those are things, they're things that I'll consider, but those aren't my primary considerations. My job is to protect the public and to punish offenders. Now, rehabilitation is part of that, but it's down from that. So first things first, my job is to punish offenders, but I want you to know that it's not all that. A lot of the satisfaction that I get from the job is not locking people up. The satisfaction is changing the people, and there are people that come through the system. You got to treat them with respect. That's somebody's brother, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's father, somebody's mother, and they're at the worst. When I see people, they're at their absolute worst. So I realize that, and I do my very best to treat them with courtesy, treat them with dignity and respect that they deserve as a human being. As a Christian, I believe that. And what I'll indicate and close with is that judges are bound by the judicial canons, which most of you don't even know about, I'm sure. But other elected officials can answer questions like, what's your position on this? What's your position on that? Judges, unfortunately, can't. So as someone indicated earlier, I think Mr. Hicks indicated earlier, we need to know a little bit about people. And it's difficult as judges because you really can't get down to it. What I can tell you is that I am someone who is has been previously endorsed, not just by the Republican Party, but Cincinnati Right to Life. I've been endorsed by the FOP Lodge 112. I've been endorsed by Ohio Buckeyes Firearms Association. I'm a CCW permit holder. I'm a member of my pistol rifle club. I think you can figure out where I am on certain things without coming right out and answering those questions that judges are not allowed to answer. So those are things that hopefully you know a little bit more about me. Personally, I'm just like you. I put the robe on, but I go to work. It's my courtroom that I am holding for you. Okay, it's the public's courtroom. My name's on it, but I'm in charge of it. And you have given me, and hopefully will give me, another 6-year opportunity to make sure that I'm worthy of that responsibility.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Wiles.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, you can leave. Yeah. Can you tell him to come in? You can stay in.
I've heard the question.
Yeah, you've heard the. All right. And then we're going to ask you to assess his answers after yours.
I answered them all.
Take the fifth.
Good luck, Jason. This is brutal.
All right, Judge Nagle. So you're up. You get 3 minutes for opening remarks and comments.
3 minutes. All right. Well, I'm not going to use all 3 minutes. I can start there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Nagle. I am currently one of your 3 municipal court judges here in Claremont County, Ohio. A couple of things about myself. Well, before I get into a couple things about myself, I will tell you that back in 2015, I sought the committee's endorsement, received that endorsement, and ran a contested race that I won by a margin of 75% to 25% in the countywide election. Over the past, before that time in 2015, I was an active member of the Central Committee. And during that period of time, I sat in the very seats that you all sat in, and time again had candidates get in front of me and sought approval, sought an endorsement, sought help. And what I can tell you is this: each and every time a person did that, I wanted to know a little bit more about them. So here's a little bit of information I think is important that you need to know about me before you make that decision. First of all, I'm a family man. Been married to my wife for over 20 years. We have 2 children, my son who's 19 and my daughter who's 16. And me and my wife, we raise our children in a very conservative family. We instill conservative values upon and with our children each and every day. I can get into some of the details after I have more than 3 minutes to talk about that. But beyond that, I've had the opportunity to be a judge here in this county for the past 5 years. And over those 5 years, I've had an opportunity to render thousands of decisions that impact people's lives on a daily basis. But I utilize those decisions to make sure that this county, each and every one of you, your family members, your friends, your community, is safe. Because when I have to render those decisions, I have to consider the purposes and principles of sentencing, which include both protecting the public and punishing the offender. And on a daily basis, I utilize some of those or most of those conservative goals. One of them that I think is near the top of the list is accountability. People have to be held accountable. And I brought that approach from the very beginning of taking a municipal court bench. People understand when they show up to the courtroom, they have to show up on time, treat people with respect, and do the things that they need to do. And it's that accountability that I have brought over the past 5 years. In addition to that, I believe that accountability is a two-way street. What that means is while I hold people accountable, I'm accountable to you. And I bring that accountability and that approach, that same situation and that same approach, each and every time I'm sitting on the bench in municipal court.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Judge. Now we're going to go to questions, and you get 1 minute for each question. Okay? And we're asking you the same questions in the same order that got asked to your colleague on the bench. First question. All of our municipal court judges have come from the prosecutor's office. What do you see as pros and cons to that?
Well, I think that historically the best judges in the county have been former prosecutors, and I told people that the last time I ran, and I believe that. And the main reason I believe that is as follows. When you are a defense attorney, a person comes in, no offense, Nagel, but a person comes in to your office and they may say, can you represent me on case X, whatever the fact pattern may be. You may specialize in that area, you may not specialize in that area. When you're an assistant prosecutor, you don't have that luxury. When the police respond to you with a situation and with a case, you have to figure it out. And so when you have that wide range of ability to handle a number of different cases over the period of time that you've been a prosecutor, I believe that gives you a head start on moving forward as a judge.
Next question, Judge, is how can we speed cases up? Some cases take years sometimes. This problem is in many courtrooms. How can your court lead the way?
Well, I can tell you that the main ones that take a while are usually because someone absconds. They don't show up. And a bench warrant gets issued. So if they don't show up for a pretrial or a clear trial setting or even a trial, it may take a year or two for them to get picked up. But generally, the cases where that doesn't take place, we routinely have those cases handled within 30, 60, 90 days. In fact, one of the things that the Ohio Supreme Court does with judges statewide is they make sure that you don't have cases that are called past guidelines, which means you have to handle them in an efficient manner. We routinely have very few, if any, cases across the board that are past guidelines. Past guidelines, I think, is typically about 6 months. Ours are usually handled well within that period of time.
Okay. All right, next question. How does jail capacity impact your sentencing decisions? Should it, meaning jail capacity, be expanded?
Well, as to the jail expansion, that's a topic for other people besides the court. What I will tell you is I have at my disposal, obviously jail is one of the things that I have at my disposal. The other things that I have at my disposal are a probation department, which could include things such as reporting probation, intensive supervision probation, EMU, which is a house arrest device with a bead put on someone's ankle. We also have the CAST program for people who qualify for that have significant drug and alcohol issues. So I'm not going to say that sometimes the jail numbers don't impact the decision I make, but it may widen my range of what I might be likely to do. I may have a person who's been in front of me before on a theft offense. They pick up a new theft offense. Typically that would be someone, if the jail's not full, that I might consider locking up. Now I might consider starting them on intensive supervision probation instead, or if they have the drug and alcohol issue, the CAST program as well.
Okay. Next question. At least 4 people have filed private citizen affidavits with the court. How do you think they should be handled?
Well, as to those types of situations, I don't believe that ethically I'm allowed to specifically answer types of cases or hypothetical cases or situations that could come before the court. What I can tell you is this. Regardless of whether it's a situation like that, regardless if it's a situation where a police officer is charged a crime or whatever it is, each and every time I evaluate the case to find out if there's any type of what is known as an appearance of impropriety. Because what I have to make sure, what every judge has to make sure is this, that no matter what, everyone feels that they got a fair shake, and no one thinks that there's some type of outside influence that could alter that decision, even if there isn't an outside influence that could. That's why it's called the appearance of impropriety. So if one side thinks that a decision is going to be made simply because of a connection they may have, or a negative connection with someone else, they have to do it, they have to recuse themselves from the situation.
Okay. Next question, and this is our multi-part question. Explain jury nullification. Do you support it? Do you support judicial superiority by judges overruling the Ohio Revised Code? That means judicial review. Reconcile both answers. Go.
Minute for the whole thing, or?
You're good.
All right.
Get a minute.
Okay. As the jury nullification, the answer is no. When we are giving instructions to the jury, one of the things that we, the court, instructs the jury to do is to follow the law. The court has to follow the law, the jury has to follow the law. If they're doing a jury nullification, they're not following the law. They're making a decision because they like or don't like someone, or they like or don't like a crime, and they swear to take an oath not to do that. As it relates to the second part of the question, I'm sorry.
Which was, do you support judicial superiority by judges overruling the Ohio Revised Code?
No, I'm a strict constructionalist as it relates to those types of situations. I'm not there to make the law at all. That's not my job.
Okay. All right. The last written question, how do you see the court progressing in the future?
Well, obviously, unfortunately, a lot of time, well, we've done a lot of things on the front end since I've been there with Judge Miles that has progressed municipal court, I think, well ahead of most municipal courts, if not most courts in the state of Ohio. I think that one of the things moving forward is we're probably going to be a little bit more reactionary than proactive. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say the legislature decides to legalize drugs A through Z. And they're going to say, let's say they're going to make them all misdemeanors. And they put the exclusive jurisdiction with municipal court. We are now going to have to find a way to react to that, because you're going to take what is basically 60 to 70% of what would normally be common pleas cases and putting them over into our courthouse. And from there, we have to make a decision on how we wanted to address or handle those types of cases.
Okay. All right, that was an excellent job of getting that in 1 minute, including me talking for part of it. There was a question from the floor for Judge Miles on average jail term for a theft.
Yes. Yeah.
What's the average jail term for a theft? Or Neil, you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so I asked what the average jail time for a theft is.
Like a first offense theft?
Well, I wanted more the repeat offender.
The repeat offender?
Yeah, I mean, my intent was, you know, if they need to go to jail for 30 days, 60 days, whatever the average is.
Okay. Well, there's a
Nowadays,
couple
we could put them in our jail. Can we farm them out to Hamilton County? I mean,
to me, it's not a one size fits all, and I can tell you my approach. As to repeat offenders, again, a lot of it's going to depend on what the jail situation is. If we're 10 over, I can't wedge a thief in there when I might need to put someone who's violent in there. But I will tell you, when I'm evaluating theft cases, I do take things into consideration, such as a repeat offender who stole from Meyer again, or a repeat offender who stole your wallet from your car, or even a first-time offender who stole your wallet from your car. Because to me, that's an invasion of privacy. I know that some thefts, they're all considered the same under the law, but I think sentencing, the way I approach sentencing on some of them is going to be a little bit different, because if someone goes onto your front step to take property, if someone breaks into your car to take your wallet and change your life, that person needs to be treated differently than someone who went in and stole a 2-liter of pop from mine. That's my approach. To answer your question, there's not a one-size-fits-all. I mean, I can't give you some mathematical equation to say, you know, this many convictions equals this many days.
Yeah,
they're all case by case.
Stole, not going to jail. But, you know, I want to keep the violent people in there.
Right. And that's the balancing act that judges have every single day.
I always offer up my septic tank.
I will tell you, Sheriff Leahy, his office sends us a report every week as to how many inmates we actually have And I check it every week to find out who it is, what the crimes are, and how many days they have left. So I'm mindful of the situation going into the next business day.
Okay, is there any additional question for Judge Nagel from the floor? Yeah, John.
We're all familiar with the Second Amendment. I want to zero in on 4 words. Shall not be infringed. What do those words mean to you?
It means that the government can't take your guns. It means that God has given us the right to own guns and carry guns and use guns.
Machine guns?
Yes,
Grenades?
potentially.
Bazookas? Tanks? Nuclear?
Within the right, I mean, it depends. I mean, does the legislature have power to regulate things to make sure that the community in itself is safe? Sure, if you're talking about a tank or a nuke or something like that, yes, but when you're talking about the guns in particular, absolutely not.
Yeah, well, on tanks and stuff, you're getting into very.
Okay, I don't want to get into back and forth amongst the group. Let's just keep the questions, okay? So any other questions? All right.
Chris, should that question also be offered?
That's,
Gonna ask that question.
yeah, so Judge Miles, before you do your closing remarks, Judge Nagel, because Judge Miles didn't get that question, you can give him a minute to respond.
Do I have to step outside?
No, he was supposed to step outside before he heard your answer, but we'll let it escape this time.
What I would indicate, John, is that, as I indicated before, I'm a CCW permit holder. I belong to the Miami Pistol Rifle Club since 2004. I'm pro Second Amendment. The reason why the Second Amendment, you have it, is to protect against government tyranny. And that's why, and that's simple. And anyone who doesn't need interpretation, again, I told you, my job is not to make the law. My job is to interpret it as narrowly as possible, and I don't think it needs any interpretation. That's my answer.
Okay. All right, now, thank you, Judge Miles.
Thank you.
Back to Judge Nagel. And now, Judge, you get your up to 3 minutes closed.
Three or two?
It
You
said
have
3
two
in one of the
minutes.
things and 2 in another. We're saying 3.
3? Okay.
Hopefully I won't take 2 or 3, although I said it the last time. It wasn't sure. I get it all done.
You were like 8 seconds short of 3.
I tried. Luckily, it's right there for me to take a look at. So, again, I think it's important that you know who I am. I think you know it's important who my family is. I can tell you a couple of quick stories about my family that'll hopefully let you know everything you need to know about how my wife and I have raised our children. I'm going to go in reverse order. My daughter, who's younger, is 16. About 3 or 4 years ago, she went to Washington, D.C. for the National Honor Society. The thing that she was most excited about when she went to Washington, D.C., after Trump had just won the election, was to be able to go to Washington, D.C., get her first MAGA hat, and wear it proudly around Washington, D.C., regardless of what other individuals were going to say to her, regardless of how other people were going to feel about it, because she was proud of the fact that even though she couldn't vote, she was happy that Trump won. Number 2, my son, 2 stories about this. My son, who's now 19, he still in his room has his Trump bumper sticker. He still in his room has his Don't Tread on Me flag hanging proudly on his wall. Okay. Beyond that, I can tell you that the next morning after the presidential election, I remember him coming downstairs. He's eating a bowl of cereal. He says, "Dad, who won the election?" And I said, "President Trump did." And his response was, "Thank God." That's the family that my wife and I, those are the types of values that my wife and I have instilled upon our children. That's the kind of person I am. That's the kind of person she is. And I would suspect, here in front of a bunch of staunch Republicans, that that's the kind of judge that you want. And if it is, I would proudly accept your support and endorsement for that position of municipal court judge. And I can't wait to see you here in about a week and a half. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both, Judge Nagel and Judge Miles. So those are, remember, those are 2 separate races. So that's why I wanted to have them be separate and to get to know them. And I appreciated both of their comments because now I feel like I know them more than I've known either of them up to this point, just by those questions. So again, thank you also for the questions. Now the next one we're going to do all at once is the Clerk of Courts. So if I can ask Mr. Vilardo, Mr. Kamphaus, and Mr. Rudd to come up. what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put some chairs here so you guys can sit, because this is gonna be in parallel, but you don't have to stand the whole time.
I don't think he's ever gonna.
And we did a drawing, just like we did on the judges, we did a drawing of who was gonna go first with their 3 minutes. And the person that will be first is Ralph Vilardo. So, and what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do each of their 3-minute remarks, then we're gonna do the 1-minute questions, and I'm gonna rotate who goes first, based, you know, each time switch who goes first. All right, Mr. Vilardo, the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Hello and good evening. First of all, I want to thank the Union Township Republican Central Committee for hosting this forum this evening. It is truly my honor, and I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you at some point tonight. As many of you already know, my name is Ralph Lardo Jr. But tonight I want to start this evening talking about my dad, Ralph Vilardo Sr. He was a veteran, a businessman, a community steward. He was a small business owner, and he demonstrated a very strong work ethic. He believed in family values and was committed to giving back to his family. I share these principles and use those every day as a 31-year public servant serving the ever-increasing needs of the residents here in Claremont County. While I first became active in the Republican Party back at Ronald Reagan's second inauguration in Washington, D.C., which for the record was one of the coldest ever inaugurations. But what a great experience. And then my business experience for the clerk's job comes from both the public and the private sector. As a former mayor of Milford, using conservative values, we were able to balance the budget, no increase, no decrease in services, and more importantly, no new taxes. All of this occurred during an economic downturn. In the private sector, I have successfully managed a budget in excess of about $5 million. I was responsible for hiring and supervising over 500 people, updating their technology, adhering to all state, local licensing rules and regulations. When I become clerk of courts, customer service will be a top priority. I plan to have an office that will be modernized and have a staff that will be accessible and adaptable to the needs of the legal profession, the courts, and most importantly, the citizens. Now, some of you have asked about my wife, Amy. The questions addressed mainly go back about 11 years before she and I were together. It is imperative to note, she has twice been elected since then, and it currently serves as the mayor of Milford. Yes, we are from different political parties, but if you take time to look, I think you'll find numerous couples who are married who are political officers. But tonight, I look forward to answering your questions concerning the clerk's office and to further talk about my qualifications. I hope to gain your trust, support, and endorsement. Thank you.
Next up is Mr. Kamphaus. Paul, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to spend my 3 minutes commenting on something that we don't agree on. We agree on modernizing the computer system. We agree on online credit card payments. We agree with electronic filing. The thing that has come up that we don't agree on is the accessibility of the clerk's office for 24/7 operations. There's 168 hours in a week. The clerk's office is open 53.5 hours. What that's done is put the burden of those closed hours on the people that it's meant to serve. I've got night shift police supervisors that are reviewing and notarizing charges and court paperwork. I've got day shift police supervisors that are assigning their officers to run that paperwork down to the courts, wait for it to be filed. If they're in jail, file it at the jail. All that's doing is putting that productivity on those officers that work during the days instead of doing it at night when everyone else is working. You have defendants that are sitting in jail. They're waiting on a bond. Now that could not just necessarily be a monetary bond, it could be a signature bond. So if I'm waiting on my mom to come sign me out of jail, she has to take off work to go do that because that's the only time she can do it in front of the clerk. So there's a loss of productivity there, and there's a cost associated with that for us having to house people longer than we have to. The people that interact with the court, they're either summoned, subpoenaed, ordered, or they're arrested to be there. So the only people that come to the court voluntarily are plaintiffs that are filing civil action where all their recourse is met. They can't resolve it themselves. They're looking for judicial release. I think those people need to have accessibility to that court beyond normal business hours. You know, if I'm a landlord and I'm doing my landlord and stuff during the daytime, I should be able to come there second shift and get my paperwork filed. The most important thing to me is there's 3 computer systems that we currently use when we process a warrant. The court has court view. Judge issues a warrant, the judge signs it, it goes into their computer system. Their computer system flags our Claremont County Records Management System, or the RMS system. It flags an alert that says, hey, your system, there is a warrant in our system. It's for this guy, he's got this descriptors, and this is what he's wanted for. We then, in turn, can enter that in the state of Ohio in the federal database, which is called Leads NCIC. Not all of municipal courts warrants are in NCIC or Leads because it's based on a pickup radius. Pickup radius is how far we go to pick up people that have warrants. I'm going to run out of time here, so the bottom line is I have the opinion that the court and the clerk are responsible for those warrants that need to be validated after hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamphaus. And now, Mr. Rudd, you have 3 minutes for your opening remarks.
I'm Tim Rudd. I'm the current clerk of Claremont County Municipal Court. I have over 25 years of experience in the court system. My first big job in the court system was the computerization of municipal court, which at the time was the largest municipal court in the state of Ohio that had no computerization whatsoever. It was also the first install of CourtView anywhere in the nation. As you can imagine, that was a tough job. It took a lot of long hours working alongside the vendor, but we had a successful implementation. The court system as a whole now, both Muni and Common Pleas, is looking to go out for proposal for a new case management system. I'm the one who has the experience of the initial implementation. I'm the one who has 25 years of experience to bring to not only picking the vendor, but helping the entire court system through the implementation process. During this last term, we've had innovation at the clerk's office. We were the first to bring up e-ticketing at the request of the Ohio Department of Public Safety in a CourtView installation. I signed a contract with the AG's office for collection. The AG has collected $1.7 million for the court and the clerk that we probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. I will have credit cards running soon. I cannot by myself sign a credit card contract. I have to go through the RFP proposal system of the commissioners. I waited till the treasurer got hers up and running. She was very happy with her vendor. I contacted MSB, and CourtView are talking to one another. Once they get done exchanging legal documents, I should be up and running on credit cards in a short period of time. As far as 24/7, my office has not been 24/7 for over a decade. And I've never had any civil work. The court system has never had any civil work beyond first shift ever. I am open as many hours as the clerks in Brown, Clinton, Warren, or Butler. In order to bring back 24/7 to the clerk's office would require an expenditure of between $300,000 and $400,000. Now my clerks are not there 24/7, but I'm a 24/7 clerk. So if law enforcement has to have a warrant after hours, they call me. I've called in a clerk after hours exactly 4 times in the last year. 4 times. Twice for Union Township, twice for the sheriff. I also had to extend day shift 1 time for the sheriff. So if you want to count that, that's 5 times. and I'll end my remarks there.
Okay, now I'm just gonna rotate the questions. No, actually, this is the difference. Okay, and I'm just gonna rotate, so Mr. Vilardo, you went first for the opening remarks, so Mr. Kamphaus will go first for the question, and then we'll just rotate the same way. So then, so the first question is actually two versions of it written out here, so I'm gonna read it both ways, but it's the same topic. Online payments, why has it taken so long to set up online payments when secure payments have been around for over a decade? Should we have online ticketing payment like surrounding counties? Why don't we have it already? Okay, so Mr. Kamphaus, you go first, 1 minute.
I agree, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the legal or logistical reasons why we don't have it. And the only one that could probably answer that for you is Mr. Rudd.
Okay. You have 45 seconds. Would you like to speak about something unrelated? All right, Mr. Rudd.
As I said before, the clerk himself cannot go out and sign a contract for a credit card vendor. It's part of the request for proposal under, 30728 for financial transactions. If you are clerk of a county operated is the optimal municipal court, you have to participate in the request for proposal when the commissioners go out for request for proposal for credit card, for financial transactions, what the code calls. They went out a couple of years ago. As I said, the treasurer got up and running this last year. We will have ticket payments. If these two vendors ever quit changing legal documents between themselves, we should have credit card on over the counter, hopefully within a few weeks. My case management vendor is telling me we may have ticket over the online late summer, early fall.
Tim, does that include ACH-based payments?
It could. The vendor that we're dealing with will basically, depending upon the, now.
Okay, I want to add another question. I'm just, because there's credit cards and ACH are two different things to me, but they're connected. So, but I don't want to add another question. I'm just, because we talked about credit cards, but there's also ACH payments.
Got it.
Okay, so Mr. Vilardo, you're up on that question. Online payments.
Okay, as a long-term public employee, I get that, dealing with government rules, regulations can be difficult. But I believe as the clerk, you have to be an advocate. You have to insist that we have the needs and the wants of the public. And one of those things is to be able to process payments like that online. I get that they take time. I get that they take time, but if you look at other counties around here, ones that are our size, obviously ones that are much larger, we are one of the few that do not accept credit cards. So we need to be a leader. We need to be out there. We need to be advocating. We need to be working with, I see Commissioner Painter in the background. We need to be advocating with the commissioner to insist that that happens and to be a leader in that. And so I get that it takes time, but I don't think we can wait and we can sit around and see if other departments work it out.
Okay. All right, so the next question is different but similar. Should we have online filing for court documents? If so, for what, and why don't we have it already? So you're up, I think. Mr. Rudd, you go first this time.
Oh, that's right, Paul passed. Well, you didn't pass. As I indicated, the court system as a whole, both municipal and common police, is going out for a new case management system this year. That is one of the #1 reasons we're going out for a new case management system, is to get online filing. Online filing, I mean, we'll see what the vendor offers, but as far as I'm concerned, it will be across the board. It's usually more used on the civil side than it is on the traffic and criminal side. And one of the holdbacks on online filing, I guess the camera's this way, is that you have to have basically a bank account for lawyers to draw against when they do a civil filing. That can be satisfied with the credit card stuff. So credit cards will make the online filing. So between the credit cards and the new case management system, the online filing will be there.
All right, so, Mr. Vilardo.
Okay, to dovetail on the comment about credit cards. So we are, again, a growing county. When you look at our increasing number, I think it was 5.4% or so increase. Obviously, residents are moving to Claremont County. And if we do not provide them with the latest technology, with the ease of things like e-filing, credit cards, we are doing a disservice to the residents of Claremont County. When you look around at all these other counties, that a lot of them only have one clerk too, that we talk about what the needs are, why people live in Claremont County. And again, that is just one of many services that we could and should be providing.
Okay. So, Mr. Kamphaus.
So my wife is a paralegal and she works in the federal system. She's been working from home during the pandemic for a year. I can't think of any reason why we couldn't have progressed during a year when so many people are working from home, that we couldn't have worked this out and made electronic filing possible, even a rudimentary electronic filing. You know, I've seen how she does it. It's secure. It's simple, and I don't know that their company's going to bring them back because they're so much more productive now with electronic filing. So in my mind, it's even more important than accepting the online payments, because the amount of productivity that you're going to increase with it is just tremendous.
Okay. All right, next question, and Mr. Vilardo, you're first on this one. And there's written up two different ways. I'm going to read both ways, similar questions. Are clerk hours a major issue for law enforcement and bail bonds? Why or why not? And then this one's a little less of a question. It says, police need to have 24-hour access to warrants in case of clerk access. Can we go back to 24 hours or at least do it electronically?
Again, those questions get asked all the time. What are the specific hours? Now, we have been led to believe that the hours that they've been doing works for the clerk's office. I hear differently. I talk to the police officers. I talk to the lawyers, the bondsmen out there who are frustrated with the hours and not being able to get the services that they need from the clerk's office. Now, is it a 24/7? You know, I'll talk a little bit later about my 90-day plan, where you go and you meet with the judges, you meet with the lawyers, and you analyze what those services really are required. And if it is adjusting those hours, I'm certainly open to that, because I've said it before. I believe that when you're saying it's costing you more money, I think it costs every municipality in Claremont County more money because of not having access to the clerk's hours when they need them.
Okay. Mr. Kamphaus.
So this is where I ran out of time on my initial 3 minutes. So to finish the leads in NCIC, when our office enters a warrant into the national database, we have 10 minutes to confirm that warrant from Alabama to California. So if a cop's on the side of the street with someone that we've entered into that system, 10 minutes we've got to answer them before they put handcuffs on that person for whatever the warrant is. Our duty officer sits at a computer waiting for those to come in 24/7. The clerk of municipal court is the keeper of those records. They should have someone available to verify those records 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rudd.
Could you repeat the question?
This has to do with the 24-hour access. I'll read both of them again. Are clerk hours a major issue for law enforcement and bail bondsmen? Why or why not? And then the other one's more of a statement. Police need to have access to 24-hour access, blah, blah, blah.
Once again, I am open as many hours as Warren County, which by the way has 3 municipal clerks and a common police clerk, and Butler County, which has 6 municipal clerks and a common police clerk. As far as the warrants, I am completely satisfied that if a warrant is in my system and the alert is on, it's a good warrant. That's called automation, it's called modernization, and it's what we agreed to even when I shut down third shift over 6 years ago. Have I answered the question? Is there any
You
more?
have 20 minutes.
Is there any more?
Would you like to
Chris?
talk about something unrelated for the next 17 seconds?
No, I think I'm
Okay. So the next question is, and this one will be Mr. Kamphaus first. What is your, I'm not actually separate these, Nathan handed me together, but they're similar, but they're a little bit different. What is your vision in regards to how long you want to be in this position, and what are your long-term goals? So Mr. Kamphaus, you're first.
So, I believe in term limits, so 2 terms would be my maximum. I think I'd like to see where I can get in the first 6 years. I think that's a long time to get some of the things implemented that I would want. You know, that'll put me almost 60, so I have to make a determination about another 6. That'll put me up in 66 years. So 1 term for sure, no more than 2. But again, you know, that's 12 years away. That's a long time, but that would be what I'm looking at.
Anything on the what are your long-term goals part of the question?
Make it to retirement.
Survival and administration. Okay, so next up is Mr. Rudd. On that question, what is your vision in regards to how long you want to be in this position, and what are your long-term goals?
For those of you who've received my 2 letters or heard me at Central Committee, this is my last term. If I'm so endorsed by the Central Committee and have your guys' support, I've announced that this will be my last term as clerk. As far as goals is concerned, I've been pretty upfront about that. The court system is going out for a new case management system. I hate to sound like a broken record here, but I'm the one with the experience of not only an initial implementation of a case management system, but also 25 years. I want to bring that experience not only for the municipal court, for the court system as a whole in the new implementation of the case management system.
Okay, and Mr. Vilardo, what is your vision in regards to how long you want to be in this position, and what are your long-term goals?
My vision is to start off the ground running. So you have a 6-year term to make sure you have an office that is modernized, accessible, and accountable to the needs of the community. So can you get that all done in 6 years? I certainly think you can make great headway. I agree with Mr. Kamphaus. Is term limits, I think in a job like this, 12 years would be a long time. That would be the longest I could envision being elected 2 6-year terms in 12 years. I think it's imperative that we understand that there are some jobs that you shouldn't be elected for life. You shouldn't be in there unless you are truly reinventing yourself, making sure that everything is running as smoothly as possible and to the needs of our community and our citizens. So again, 12 years would certainly be my maximum.
Okay, so next question, and Mr. Rudd, you're first, and then Mr. Vilardo, and then Mr. Kamphaus. This will be maybe, I don't know if there's other ones, this is probably the most controversial question of the night. But I don't know what the other questions are. If you were not running for clerk of courts, who would you vote for that position?
Wow.
I wanted to separate that out. Combine it with the other one. Mr. Rudd.
I'm glad he's going first.
It was Dora.
It totally wasn't.
That's a pass. I've been the clerk since 2004. I believe that if I was not running for clerk, you wouldn't see 2 people here. You'd see a half dozen or more people here. So in all fairness, I have no idea who I'd vote for if I wasn't running for clerk.
Okay. Mr. Vilardo.
I like that question. I like those hard questions. And I think it's a fair question from the standpoint is I wouldn't be running if I didn't think that I had the experience and the expertise to make the clerk's office better. So barring that I could not vote for myself, when I initially looked at this as an opportunity, I looked at the clerk's office. I know how hard it is to run against an incumbent. I know that. But I also feel that the time is now for change. And I actually met with Mr. Kamphaus as he and I were first talking about running. I certainly think he has a great background. And if for whatever reason I wasn't running, my vote would go to Mr. Kamphaus.
Now, the next up is Mr. Kamphaus. Let's see what he says to that question.
Thanks, Ralph. But I'm running. So I'd like to return the favor, but I'm a big election integrity fan. I think that it's important that my vote is between me and the ballot. And no, I'm just kidding. I agree with Ralph. You know, I got into this for the same reason Ralph did. I feel that there's a need of change in leadership over the clerk's office. So if I was not running, I would vote for Ralph.
Okay. The next question, and Mr. Vilardo's first, Mr. Kamphaus is second, Mr. Rudd is third on this one. Would you be willing to seek, there's two versions of the same question on the revotes. Would you be willing to explore the combining of of both clerks' offices, and would you support going back to one clerk of courts? So Mr. Vilardo first.
I think that's a very fair question, because when I first looked at running for the clerk, I reached out to Barb Wiedenbein, our other clerk, and talked to her a little bit about her experiences, of what it takes and why two clerks. I know the history of how the two clerks became, and the legislation that was passed to create that position. But that's something that's a hard answer for me to stand up there and say definitive, yes, I will certainly do that. But I do think that's something that when elected, I would look into, knowing that it could cost me my job. I understand that. So if it's more efficient, if it's cost efficient and better for the taxpayers, and it goes back to one clerk, I would support that, even if it cost me my job.
All right, Mr. Kamphaus.
So with it being statutorily mandated, I don't know if that's even a possibility. You know, it's almost once you open that barn door, that horse is out, you can't undo it. Would I be willing to discuss it with Barb Wiedenbein and you know, see if she was supportive and bring it to the legislators, that, you know, our representatives? Yeah, I guess I would, but I just don't know that that's actually even a possibility.
You know, it can be done.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Rudd.
1901-31 says that if a municipal court has a jurisdiction of over 100,000 people, it is to have an elected clerk. So that is the law of the land. There are a handful of exceptions. I mean, you can point to Hamilton County. What happened in 2003 was the current clerk of the Common Pleas Court, David Cowell, and the municipal judges petitioned the commissioners to ask the General Assembly to take the exception out of the code for Claremont County. So as much as everybody wants to talk about creation, there was actually an exception that was removed to the 100,000 jurisdiction. So long and short of it is I can tell you, Muni is busy. The Community Journal did a study about 10 or so years ago. I can give you a copy of the article. We're more efficient than what Hamilton County does, than what Warren County does, and what Butler County does.
Okay. All right, next question, and this one will be Mr. Kamphaus first, Mr. Rudd second, and Mr. Vilardo third. Are any of you double dippers taking a state pension? Do you pledge not to take a state pension while in office? Mr. Kamphaus, you're first.
I am retired. I am accepting my pension from PERS. I'm under a yearly contract with the sheriff. Year to year, as I said when I got into this, I committed to him that I would finish 2 projects. One was the training and safety building. The other was the range. The range is due in June, and that's why I even contemplating getting into this. I have to admit that the double dipping has a negative connotation to it, but I put 25 years in a career in law enforcement, had my age and time eligible to accept a retirement, and I did.
Mr. Rudd.
I could have retired before my last term started, which means I can retire now. I am not retired. I will not retire this term. If I was going to, I would have had a letter to Julia Carney sometime at the beginning of February, I believe. I will not retire until my service as municipal clerk of courts is done. So that's either at the end of this year, or if I'm so elected, at the end of 6 more.
All right. Mr. Vilardo.
As a firefighter paramedic, I'm in the police and fire pension fund. When as I retire, I will get a pension from that. I can't stop that from coming. I can't tell them. I can put it into other things, but I will have a pension from the pension fund. Now, I'm also in PERS, which is what we would be in for my time as a council member when I served Milford. That would, because it was concurrent in the police and fire, that would continue on. So I would have a PERS associated with that. But to say that I would be a double dipper, because they're separate pension funds, I can't stop that from coming. Again, that is something that I did earn. So I would not be retired from the PERS end of it. I would still continue as a clerk.
Okay, the next question is going to be Mr. Rudd first, Mr. Vilardo second, Mr. Kamphaus third. As an elected official, it is your responsibility to safeguard taxpayer funds and to run your office as efficiently as possible. Is it really worth $300K plus to modify the clerk's schedule?
See, and I'm the one who made that decision. I don't believe so. And I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm open as many hours. It's easy to say Brown and Clinton, and everybody thinks, well, those are smaller counties. But I called all the clerks in Warren County. I've talked to them individually how they do business. In fact, I'm open an entire day shift on Saturday, whereas the Warren County clerk only has a clerk on duty that only comes in if the jail calls them and says we have to come in and do charges. I think I'm doing it the right way, guys. If I see that there's a need to change, of course, I'm willing to talk. But what I'm telling you is I have the same hours as the majority of clerks across the state of Ohio. The 24/7s that I'm aware of are hooked to municipalities. Cincinnati, Dayton, and Columbus, Franklin County Municipal.
Okay, Mr. Vilardo.
As I spoke earlier about my 90-day plan, one of the first things I would do is to talk to all the shareholders, basically, the people who have to use the clerk's office, all the municipalities, the sheriff's office, the other police departments, the legal profession, and come up with a plan that best serves those needs in the majority of them. If it's only 4 or 5 times, I would have to look at that. I think it's significantly higher if it's available. And again, you also have to weigh that with the needs of what the other municipalities are paying and what it's costing them. So you'd have to analyze all that and get them all together, get them all in a room and say, what services do you need? What hours do you need? And I think we would work then with the Commissioner's office to be able to adjust the budget to facilitate that and better serve the residents and the needs of this county.
Mr. Kamphaus.
So when I started, the municipal court was a 24-hour operation. It was a 24-hour operation for a large majority of the time that I was on the patrol, was on night shift, interacted every day with the clerks. I've been responsible for the adjustments that we've had to make to accommodate the unavailability of that office. So is it worth countywide the type of expenditure that you're talking? In my opinion, yes, it is. Now, would that mean I'm going to have to work cooperatively with the commissioners and with the judges and the other elected officials to get that done? Yes, that's why I'm seeking the Republican Party's endorsement for this. This is going to have to be a team effort to get it back to where I think it needs to be.
All right, next question. I just want to say something about this question. Nathan added the question while the candidates were talking, and I don't think that's the role of the screeners up here. Because I think it was a loaded question because it quoted a number from Mr. Rudd in the question that we just had. We've
had multiple questions from folks while the candidates are speaking.
Not from the
Double
people
dippers.
screening, I don't think. So,
Every
not from the
question-
people sitting up front that volunteered to help.
I have a right to ask a question.
Okay. Next question, so this is Mr. Vilardo first, Mr. Kamphaus second, Mr. Rudd third. Will you make all court records available to attorneys to review online? So Mr. Vilardo, you're first.
And again, that goes back to the modernization and making it accessible, making the clerk's office that you are serving the needs. If that is legally possible, whatever records, management system that we go to, those would be one of the things that we need to make accessible. We need to ensure that we are providing the services, that the clerk's office is serving the needs, and we shouldn't even be talking about this. This should be something that could have been and should have been implemented much sooner than this, and we would be having a much different conversation today. So as I keep harping on it and saying, my pledge is to ensure that modernization, being accessible, and being accountable.
All right, Mr. Kamphaus.
So I can't say all records available to attorneys because that would be something we would need to get a prosecutor's opinion on. Anything that is a public record clearly would be accessible to everyone. I don't know specifically if there's an exemption for attorneys for victim information. Marcy's law changed a bunch of that, so I would have to research the answer to that question with the prosecutor's office, but any public record will be available to everyone.
And Mr. Rudd.
I've actually done one better than that. I've made 99.9% of my documents viewable for the entire public, not just for attorneys, as of 1/1/20. So anything that it was filed or docketed in my office as of 1/1/20, you can go out on the public website. As far as the attorney portal is concerned, Paul's correct. Right now, the prosecutor's office is getting an opinion from the Attorney General's office to see that if attorneys actually have more rights and more privileges to their own portal than a private citizen. So depending upon what the Attorney General sends back as an opinion, the attorney portal will either go up or go down. Because right now I have a request from a private citizen to enter the portal. At the time that I took the portal down, as Paul said, Marcy's law had complicated the matter.
Okay. Next question. And this one will be Mr. Vilardo first, Mr. Kamphaus second, and Mr. Rudd third.
I went
Or is
first.
that? Yeah, so it's Mr. Kamphaus first, Mr. Rudd second, and Mr. Vilardo third. Instead of following what other Clark County Clerk of Courts do, what would you do to set Claremont County ahead of the other counties? So Mr. Kamphaus first.
So I think that'll be driven by the needs of the people that it's meant to serve. I mean, you know, I'll meet with everyone that's interacts with the courts, you know, the attorneys, the police officers, the jail, our office, you know, what are your needs and how can I fill them? And work it through there to make that determination. You know, what everyone else does, I really don't care about. I'm here to serve the citizens of Claremont County and the people that interact with that court, and that'll be the driving factor for what types of services we need. It's my opinion and my intent to open it 24/7, and if everybody says, well, that's not something we're interested in, I'm going to have to say, okay, no, but that is my experience. That is everyone that I work with, all the circles that I have discussions with, professionally work with, says that's the needs that needs to be done.
All right, Mr. Rudd, instead of following what the other counties, the clerk of courts do, what would you do to set Claremont County ahead of the other counties?
And once again, I hate to sound like a broken record, but that's why we're going out for a new case management system. I mean, all innovations are going to be driven through that new case management system. We're dealing right now with a 25-year-old case management system. And it's a system where you have to go through multiple screens in order to get your job done. The new technology is basically you sit on one screen and you're able to do all the functions that we're now having to click, 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 click. It drives me absolutely crazy. It drives me crazy that I go in the search engine and I hit the enter button and it doesn't work because I got to go click on an icon, okay? The new case management system is what is going to bring new innovation into the court system and set us apart. Just like it was when we got court view, we had other clerks coming into our office to look to see what our operations were.
All right, Mr. Vilardo, instead of following what other county clerks of court do, what would you do to set Claremont County ahead of the other counties?
And again, we shouldn't be having this conversation. We should have already been a leader. Well, we are a leader in this community, in this area. There's reason why people have come to this area, and the clerk's office needs to represent that. They need to always be a leader. Now, I applaud that we are finally getting a new case management system, but I would say as clerk, we won't be in that situation. We will always be forward thinking, looking ahead, looking at the needs that will be served. So that takes time, but we need to plan for that, and we need to make sure we can institute it ahead of the game as opposed to playing catch up.
All right, any questions from the floor? By the way, it's getting late, so. Okay, so why don't we go to, if there aren't any, just give a second chance, any questions? All right, so why don't we go to closing comments, and I'm just gonna reverse the order from what we did at the beginning.
Can I ask
So,
a question? I do have a question.
okay,
It's for Tim. I just have a
hold on a
question.
second. They're all gonna get to answer the question. So the order, but the order will be Tim first on this one. So
Well, my question is between the municipal and common pleas, what's the difference in the employees? Are there how many under municipal? How many are under common pleas? Do they do different things? How does the employees help you? How does that work?
Well, in order to explain the court system, it's going to take longer in a minute. I have 20 employees. I have no idea what Bard has. And the judges hit on it. I mean, municipal is the misdemeanor court. We handle all traffic and criminal misdemeanors. And I have a civil division where the jurisdiction goes up to 15,000. We handle all small claims cases. So common pleas handles all felony cases, and then they handle all civil cases above 15,000. But you also have other divisions of common pleas. You have the domestic relations and you have the juvenile probate.
Right, right.
Two totally different animals. And just because we are the misdemeanor court, because we are the court of arraignment, most of the felonies start there. In other words, if somebody gets arrested on a felony tonight, they'll come before one of my judges or magistrates tomorrow for an arraignment or bond hearing. So, yeah. And the way to get into the common pleas court is either through a grand jury or grand jury through direct indictment, or if one of my judges bind the case over. But you're dealing with two entirely. The court system at the county level is always divided between a misdemeanor court or courts and the felony court.
okay, thank you for that answer. By the way, I think it's an interesting question because probably in like central committee meetings, we should learn about what some of these jobs do in the county, because a lot of times we don't even know what one clerk's office does.
I trust the
versus
out-of-court
the
system.
So we'll go look you up later. Okay, so, but Mr. Vilardo and Mr. Kamphaus, if you want to comment on that, to your question, Debbie, was basically around how many employees are there and so forth, but Mr. Vilardo, you're next.
I do.
Again, that is something that I would certainly have to look at, analyze, and to see that we are efficiently working within our office. To Mr. Red's point, I can't comment on what Barb Wiedenbein's office is doing right now, but that is certainly something that you would have to look at to ensure that the 20 people or so employees that you have are working effectively and efficiently, and ensuring that the needs are being met. So I think that might dovetail on the other part of that question whether you have one or two clerk's office. But again, it's two clerk's office that are run separately. That would be something that once you're in there, you would have to analyze and look at.
Mr. Kamphaus.
So I would agree with Tim. It's apples and oranges. The speed of municipal court is so, the speed and volume is so much more than the speed and volume of the common police courts. You know, these guys, 6 months is the limit for them. You know, you could have cases going on for years and years, especially civil cases in the common police court. So, you know, it's not really even the ability to say, well, 20 people can do it here and 15 people can do it there, because it's just not a fair comparison.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
Chris, all right. Joe.
I feel like the police officers, the attorneys, the bail bondsmen, this is their area. They deal with the they deal with the clerk of court's office daily, weekly. And so, have any of you yet, or do you plan on seeking the endorsement from the FOP, from the police chiefs union, from any attorneys unions if there are any bail bondsmen guys, any Union Township, Miami Township police chief, any of those folks, because this is their area, this is where they work in. Have any of you gotten any letters of recommendation from those folks? And if so, let us know, or do you plan on it?
Okay, so Mr. Vilardo, you're first on this one.
So, thank you for the question. First of all, I've spoken to a lot of them. I've gone out and I've talked to other police chiefs. I've spoken with bail bondsmen and lawyers about what they think their needs are, and to try to look at, once I get elected and once you get in there, what their needs are. So to go out after your endorsement being one of the most important one, I would certainly meet with all of them and show them why I deserve their endorsement and why I could serve the needs that they would have. So I would certainly look into that.
Mr. Kamphaus.
So I publicly stated that I'm seeking the Republican endorsement to represent the Republican Party in this race. I didn't think it was appropriate to ask any other FOP or any of those to endorse or seek an endorsement until after this endorsement. If I've put it in my questionnaire, if I don't run as a Republican, I'm not going to run. That's just, I am a Republican. In my mind, if I'm going to come out for a political office, I'm going to be coming out as a Republican.
Mr. Rudd.
I would echo Paul there. I mean, the most important endorsement is the endorsement of the Claremont County Republican Party. The Police Chiefs Association has a history of being apolitical. They have never endorsed. I don't see them endorsing this time. I have in the past received, I believe both times I ran with opposition, endorsement of the FOP. I know I had it last time. So, yeah, to echo Paul, I mean, the most important endorsement that any of us seek is from the Central Committee.
Okay. All right, now we're time for us, but I'm going to look around and see if there's any other questions. Okay. Bob McGee's very convinced there shouldn't be any. So you each get 3 minutes, and we're going to start with up to 3 minutes. We're going to start with Mr. Rudd for closing comments.
I know everybody's heard 24/7, 24/7, 24/7. So the only thing I'll say is, once again, my office is not 24/7, but you're looking at a guy that answers his phone 24/7, 365 days a year. I think in addition to my 25 years experience in the court system, what you should know is I've served the party. I was a member of the Central Committee from Washington Township for 20 years. Of those 20 years, 16 of those I served as the chairman of the party. While chairman of the party, I did it all. I planned and organized the Lincoln Days. We hosted 3 vice presidential nominee rallies, which were probably the biggest rallies, I know the biggest rallies of modern times that this party had seen. I've pounded signs, I've chased absentees, I've worked the polls, I've done it all. I've fought the hard fight, I've been there when the party needed me. I'm a family man. I'm married to the same woman for 34 years and have a handsome son, 25 years old. As I stated in one of those questions, I am a member of a public pension system. I'm not retired now. I will not retire this term, and I will not retire until my service as clerk of the Claremont County Municipal Court is over. I'm not going to take 3 minutes, guys. I've got 25 years of experience. I'm the only person up here who has experience implementing a case management system. The court system as a whole, not just muni, but common pleas is going out for a new case management system. And that's why we do it. We do it as a whole and not individually, so the entire court system can pool its resources. We're putting up half the funds. The commissioners are putting up half the funds. That's why we don't do it piecemeal. That's why we're not tacking on innovations to a 25-year-old system. We pool our resources, we do it together. I have the experience to run the office effectively, efficiently, and economically. And that's why I'm asking you guys, and I'm asking the Central Committee at large for your consideration for support for endorsement to the Clerk of the Claremont County Municipal Court for one last term. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kamphaus.
So, people have asked me, you know, why are there 2 clerk of courts? And my answer is, I don't know, that's just the way it is. The next question they ask is, why is it an elected position? Again, I don't know, that's just the way it is. So, I know I wanted to make a difference in that office. The timing was right, and I knew that in order to do that, I had to run for a political office, which, as I've stated, is way outside my comfort zone. I will admit that I haven't had the opportunity to reach out to everyone personally like I would have liked to, but I made the decision that, you know, this was not going to interfere with my commitment and my responsibilities at my current job, and I would do it on my own time. And I just haven't had the opportunity to reach out like I would have liked. And to be quite honest with you, I'll probably never become the type of politician that's going to call you up and say, hey, let's go out and have a cup of coffee and talk about the who's who and the what's what of the political scene in Claremont County or the state of Ohio. I don't know that that's me. It may be me. It's not me now. But what I can promise you that if you support me for this position, you'll get the same commitment and dedication that I have in my current public service. You know, I'll bring innovation. I'll bring a sense of cooperation with all of the other county offices to that office. I'll involve anyone and everyone that's willing to meet with me whenever I try and make some policy or procedural change and see how it's going to affect everyone. I will be the kind of elected official that makes myself available to anyone that has input in the office. If you've got a good idea, I'm willing to listen to it. I will be the kind of elected official that will promote and defend the values of the Republican Party. I will be the kind of elected official that you'll be proud to say that you supported. Thank you.
And last but not least, Mr. Vilardo.
All right. I will wrap this up. I have hopefully answered all your questions. A lot of you, I know. A lot of you I haven't had the privilege yet to get to meet. I hope to do that soon, and to be able to ask for your endorsement and to earn your trust and support. And to know that when elected, that I will modernize, I will be accessible, and I will be accountable. You'll hear me repeat that over and over, because when I first started looking into the position, the timing really wasn't right for me. The timing wasn't right. I had a lot of things. I have 3 wonderful daughters and a Marine son who is serving overseas that we get the opportunity to go see on occasion. So they certainly take priority. They take priority. However, they have been very supportive of that. My family has been very supportive of doing this, because they understand that I saw a need. I believe I can fill that, and I will ensure that I earn your trust, and I hope to have your support, and I hope to have your endorsement. If you have any questions about me, I am an open book. You know, I know a lot of times in my opening statement, I talked about a very sensitive subject that people have seemed to judge or to make predisposed notions about me and what I believe in, but I have a strong family and faith conviction. I think you'll see that. I've been a public servant for 31 plus years, and I don't take that lightly. I don't take that lightly that people put their trust in me to provide that service, to work for the taxpayers. I understand that the taxpayers have supported my profession for a number of years. I don't ever take that for granted. I was that young kid who grew up on Main Street in Milford who wanted to be a fireman. That was my first and foremost. I then used that passion. I got involved in politics. I got elected to Milford City Council at a time where, again, just like the clerk's office, I saw a need. I saw an opening. I saw people who moved in and were starting to make changes that I don't think represent what my values were. And so those are some changes. So this was an opportunity that I needed to take right now. I believe I'm well qualified and I can make significant changes. And something that you all can be proud to support me as your candidate, and I hope for your support and endorsement. Thank you.
All right, so I can get Judge Nagle and Judge Miles to come up also, you know, and we'll wrap this up, and then we have like one other thing on our agenda before Bob McGee makes a motion to adjourn. Yeah. All right, so I want to thank all of these guys. So if you all stand up, and then I'm going to shut this off while you're standing there. But I want to thank all these guys so Judge Nagle, Judge Miles, Mr. Vilardo, Mr. Kamphaus, and Mr. Rudd. I want to thank you for participating in our candidate forum here at Union Township, and I'd like everybody to give them a big round of applause for being here.